What's going on, everybody? It is the one and only Q from Retro Q Gamer, back at it as always, and here we are with lovely little episode 11 of our Quack experimental podcast. Some decent stuff to talk about this week, a lot of stuff, some of it online, some of it off, some of it retail, some of it not. But before we get any further, I do want to talk about the importance of this one. So this episode is obviously going live on Saturday night as opposed to Sunday because tomorrow is E3 and that's when that starts. Now I've already put up a video talking about how I'm going to cover E3 this year, or rather how I'm not, because I can really only properly do one of the shows that I'm interested in. I will be checking that one out, so of course feel free to tune in to the live stream or whatever tomorrow night, which will be the Sunday the 9th of June at just before 9 p.m. BST. That's when it's going to go live. We're going to see what's going on with the Microsoft conference. Of course, there's a couple of other conferences out there that I do want to talk about. I'll make a video about each individual one, such as, I was going to say Sony, I forgot they don't have one, such as Bethesda, Nintendo. There was one or two more I can't remember. I might do the PC gaming show. It's typically cringe, but there are some announcements usually coming out of it. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, before we go any further, I'll take a second to remind everyone to hit the sub button and even ring the bell so you do get that notification for the live stream. Anyway, let's get going, because first up, we got to talk about some Nintendo. There was a Pokemon Direct just the other day, and while I didn't personally watch it on purpose, because, well, I'm really hyped for Pokemon Sword and Shield, Pokemon Gen 8, when it comes to the Switch later this year. Now, because of all of that, I've tried to avoid some of the stuff in this. Naturally, I do see a little bit. I don't click the articles. I'm scrolling through Twitter, whatever. I see a little bit of info here or there. So what I do know about it does look really good, and it's got me really hyped for it. But I'm trying to avoid it. And yes, as weird as it is, I'm talking about the stuff that I do know, even though I didn't watch the Nintendo Direct. So like I said, I didn't watch it, I didn't skip it, I didn't want to be spoiled on it. Did see a few things, including they showed off a few new Pokemon. They showed the new gym leaders, or at least some of them. They showed the new professor and her assistant as well. There's some in there too. There's a couple of theories going around about voice acting, because mouth movements are much more articulated. They look like they could be somewhat realistic. And conspicuously, all the text box during certain scenes were removed. So it could be, there could potentially be limited, if not complete, voice acting. Now, there's one other cool thing as well. We all know the last couple of games have figured Mega Evolution. Now, these ones are going to be a little bit different. They're, including for Sword and Shield, they're going to have a new system called Dynamax. And Dynamax is going to basically make your Pokemon super giant. Think Godzilla, but Pikachu. Yeah, I know, am I right? I did, like I said, I skipped the trailer on purpose. I only saw one or two tidbits about Dynamax. I don't know anything about it other than what I mentioned. I'm going to see how curious it's going to be when we go forward with Dynamax. I'm not sure if it's going to be properly akin to Mega Evolution, or if it's just going to be something completely different and weird anyway. Like I said, the tiny bits that I did see of the trailer, not so much of the trailer, I should say, the bits that were taken in excerpt from and put into tweets and whatever and stuff, that looked really good, except one thing. There's a specific area in the game. I didn't list the name here. I probably should have. I think it might be called the Wild Zone or the Wild Area or something along those lines. But you can see wild Pokemon running around. I'm not a fan of that in Pokemon games. Now, they did, in this zone, they did offer something that I did want to see, where you could move and rotate the camera freely in 360 degrees. That was something I was hoping for the upcoming Pokemon games. I talked about them I think it was last year, or it could have been even the year before Let's Go Pikachu and all came out. I wanted to see, or I wanted to speculate on what I'd like to see in Pokemon Gen 8, and now this is somewhat similar. Think the Breath of the Wild camera scheme and control scheme and all that will give you a better idea. Although chances are you've probably already watched the trailer or watched the Direct anyway. Now, I do like that part of it, but I don't like the idea of them all walking around. Sure, it does give a bit of immersion and a bit of more realism and excitement to the world, I guess, to some people, but I like, in just not just Pokemon, but in other RPGs and all as well, I like the random battle aspect. If you can just see all the Pokemon there and skip them and run by them and all, it kind of defeats the purpose of that. At least that's the way I like it. And not to mention that in Pokemon, you can specifically avoid battles by either not going into the grass or the water or the cave or wherever. And if you do have to go into one of them, you can use a repel. There's a specific line of items in game designed to remove that. I don't know, maybe it's something they're trying different. Maybe they'll see how it takes off or how it's received, and they'll do something better or something along the lines of that in a spin-off sequel or something. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's only the one big area or the one set of areas, whatever it is, where that happens in. But the big, most important thing at the moment is it currently has a release date for November 15th, 2019. And they have a special dual edition, a dual box edition of the Pokemon Sword and Shield, where you get game cards for each game included in the box. And in Europe, at least anyway, it comes also with a big fancy 2-card golden steelbook. Now, I'm going to try get that one. I haven't seen it up for sale anywhere yet, just yet anyway. At least I haven't checked the Nintendo web store because that's awful. Especially, well, it's awful if you live outside of the UK, put it that way. We'll see how it goes. I'm hoping and anticipating for it to come to either GameStop or preferably Amazon, and I can just get it from there. Although with Pokemon, I kind of do want to get it as soon as possible. Day one, I might just resort to picking those up in GameStop. I want to get them as soon as possible and play them. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. At the moment, we have pretty much no more, or at least I know no more about this. But I will say one more thing before we move on to our next little segment. Team Score Bunny for life. But onto a slightly less positive note here for our next one. Although you can say it's slightly positive, slightly negative, depending on what way you want to look at it. Shenmue 3 has unfortunately been delayed again. Now, I say unfortunate because yes, of course, naturally, we all want to play this game as soon as possible. We've been waiting so long for this game, and naturally, we're all dying to play it. Now, originally, well, I say originally, but the current plan for the game's release was August 27th, 2019. It's now been delayed just a few months to November 19th, 2019. Funny enough, it's just within a few days of Pokemon. Now, of course, am I going to get all upset and go all QQ more about all this stuff? No. Now, I'm never a fan of game delays, usually at least anyway. Yeah, there we go. I'm usually not a fan of game delays, but I look at it this way. One, I've been waiting so long for Shenmue 3 to come out that I don't care. We've waited 19 years. What's another few months, okay? And another way to look at it is that the game is being delayed a little bit to be made better. Now, of course, would I like the game to be perfect and ready to go on August 27th? Absolutely. Unfortunately, that seems to not be the case. So they're pushing it back for quality reasons, which I can't fault them for, as much as it kills me inside because I'm dying to play it as quick as possible. Although I will say it is a bit of a far cry, isn't it? This game was originally announced and kickstarted in 2015. Lord knows I backed it. Physical backer-only PC Steam Edition, boy. But anyway, its original target was December of 2017. And now here we are, almost 2 years after that release. Well, when if the current launch date, November 19th, lines up, it'll be almost 4 years since announcement and almost 2 years after original release date target. Anyway, I can't be too upset about it as much as I'm dying to play it. It's going to be for the best, and I can't wait to realize for Yu Suzuki to realize his sequel and dream of whatever was the conclusion or the continuation, because there's hints out there that it's not going to be the end of Shenmue. Now, next up, we'll talk sales numbers for games, and we're going to do it in a little bit of a weird way because a new trend is starting over in the UK. The UK has launched their first digital sales list for games. Now, typically, when you have the sales list for a week of games or a month of games or whatever it is, 99% of the time, they're just standard physical sales. But now, they have digital sales charts. Now, previously, like I said, they were only physical, but this time, it's interesting because there are a few noticeable major absent from a couple of different publishers, manufacturers, whoever. A couple of them are noticeably absent from this list, like, say, Nintendo, Bethesda, and Konami. But we do have a lot of big major companies on there. Activision Blizzard, that's obviously pretty big because of Call of Duty, and not to mention whatever else. Bandai Namco, Capcom, Codemasters, EA, Focus Home Interactive, Koch Media, Microsoft, Milestone, Paradox Interactive, Sega, Sony, Square Enix, Take-Two, Ubisoft, and Warner Brothers. So that's a pretty significant chunk that are opting into this list because it's going to look good. They have all these games from all their subsidiaries and everything, and they can do some serious stuff, get some serious numbers, pull in some serious money. Especially works out well in a couple of people's favors because when you look at the likes of Sega, they took number one in this digital sales chart because they have one of their Total War games, which was top of this list. And then, of course, naturally, every week you've got Grand Theft Auto sells up a storm on pretty much every platform. And now, because if with sales directly through Steam, now Rockstar are going to be sitting pretty on there too. Think about it. It's kind of handy. I wonder how this is they're gonna change anything going forward. I wonder will more people opt in, more companies, more publishers, whoever opt in. Nintendo are very Nintendo in that regard, and they'll just stay way behind in the past because, well, that's what they do. But I am surprised that someone like Bethesda and Konami aren't in there. Then again, Konami haven't really made many games outside of, what is it? They make Pro Ev and they're doing those collections, but I think that's about it this time. But that's it. We'll see how this goes. I hope this trend gets bigger and bigger, better and better. Maybe goes all over the world or all over Europe as well. Certain different regions, whatever it is. I can't wait to see how this goes because it'll be more telling and transparent in the future. Now, up next, let's talk about the Sega Mega Drive Mini. And I know, everyone is dying to hear that last final announcement about those last list of games. But we're not going to talk about that just yet. We're going to talk about the new announcement that Sega had at the same time. They are launching a Sega Mega CD Mini and a Sega 32X Mini. Boom! How crazy is that? World has gone mad. Everyone's losing their mind. And on top of that, it doesn't end there because they have a Sonic and Knuckles cartridge with a normal cartridge, all to go with this little Tower of Power Mini that they're going to do. Now, I know everyone's already losing their mind. The next gen is obviously here for Mini, but as much as I hate to say it, this is just a decoration kit. It is all just aesthetic. I know, it devastates me too. Absolutely kills me inside. But yes, it is unfortunate that the Mega CD Mini and the 32X Mini, the Sonic and Knuckles Kart Mini, and the regular Kart Mini that goes on top of it are all just cosmetic. Now, it's coming September 19th, the same day as the Mega Drive Mini itself. Currently, there's only lists and only announcements and all related to Japan, all advertisements and all so far. This could change. It's currently listed as well for 3,980 yen, which is roughly 32 euro. Obviously, you could probably import from the likes of PlayAsia. They do all that stuff. But more surprisingly enough, that this entire thing, as cool as it is and as Tower of Power strong it is, it was a complete big secret. Apparently, even M2, the studio who are working on all the emulation of all the games inside it, didn't even know this existed. They were there watching when it was revealed, and apparently they were all like loud, exasperated gasps from them because apparently they didn't even know it was a thing. Honestly, I'll buy it. If it comes out over here anyway, I'll buy it. I wouldn't go to all the trouble to import it from Japan or anything, but if it launches here, I'll buy it. It's one of those things. I mean, you have people out there spending all sorts of money on all sorts of everything, and I mean they can try to talk shit about people buying whatever they want, but I'd buy this. Absolutely, for sure. As long as if it does come out over here, they don't ridiculously jack up the price. I mean, with the conversion rate from 4,000 yen, it's roughly 32 euro. I think at most I'd probably pay 35, possibly 40 euro for it. 40 would be a stretch because it's a couple of pieces of cosmetic plastic. I don't know. It's not like you can play Mega CD Mini games or Mega 32X games. So you see my point. Anyway, remains to be seen. We'll see. But now we'll talk about the other part of the Mega Drive Mini that everyone does want to hear about and everyone was always waiting for. So we all know that the Mega Drive Mini was announced with 40 games going to be preloaded on it. We got the first list of games, there was a batch of 10. Second list, another batch of 10. Third list, another batch of 10. So logically the fourth list would have the last 10 games totaling in 40 games like Sega promised. No, they've done something just a little bit different, and Sega are coming out and have announced 12 games for the final batch, bringing it up to a total of 42. Now, that's obviously better. There's no price increase, no change, anything like that. And we get 2 extra games for the price of, well, 40. So, the last 12 games are as follows: Eternal Champions, Light Crusader, Monster World 4, Kid Chameleon, Dynamite Heady, Columns, Elisa Dragoon, yeah, it's Dragoon, Virtua Fighter 2, Strider, Road Rash 2, and the 2 new games that are going to be added is Darius, which is a brand new port that was never originally done for the Mega Drive, and a super rare port of a super rare version of Tetris, also coming to Mega Drive. So that's pretty cool. Overall, there's the big 40 games on that list. A lot of them are pretty top tier, or at least I'd say there's a significant chunk of them on there that are going to be pretty top tier. There's some good stuff as well that you didn't expect. I never expected Road Rash 2 to be on there, although I can't really remember the difference between Road Rash 1 and 2. I also can't really remember what the console versions were like, the 16-bit versions, compared to the PS1 version I used to own. Am I going to be in for a shock? I can't remember. It's been so many years. But some of the other stuff is good on there too, especially Columns. I'm a huge fan of Columns. I used to absolutely love that. I for a brief period of time during the 16-bit era, I actually preferred playing Columns than I did playing Tetris, which is kind of a big deal when you think about it. And Strider, I think Virtua Fighter 2 is just put on there because of what it is. But you've got games like Strider on there too, and some of the stuff on the previous ones, it makes sense why they'd put all this on there. I have mine pre-ordered anyway. I'm going to be getting it when it comes out at launch. It's a 2-controller bundle. Unfortunately, since I'm not going to bother importing the Japanese one, I only get the 3-button controllers, not the 6-button controllers, which is kind of stupid because they had obviously intended to put Street Fighter 2 on there from the start. Anyway, I just think that's a terrible idea. And no, I'm not going to go out and get one of those. What are they? The retro bit controllers, the 8-bit do controller, 8-bit do, whatever it is. Their new officially licensed ones. Yeah, they're apparently garbage. So, well, it doesn't surprise me. Most of their other stuff has shitty D-pads. So, why wouldn't these? Now, this next one I wish I was joking about, but unfortunately it's not April 1st. And this is a real thing. So, Microsoft are making a series of Bodywash and kind of fragrances and just body care products. This is a thing that's happening in 2019. They're not making games, or at least they're making games after it's too late and they should have been making proper games the entire time. But Microsoft is working with Lynx, that's Axe for you guys in America out there, and not making games, but working with Lynx to make a series of body wash and stuff like that. What do I have to say about this? I mean, it looks like they're finally trying to prepare to bring back Xbox, because they're not fighting to bring back Xbox One. They're preparing to fight back with the new Xbox. By the time all this stuff happens and launches and releases and all their new studios and all, they're going to be focused on the next Xbox. They're not going to be focused on Xbox One. So all this time, they've been putting out very few, sparse, mediocre at best games and putting out controller after controller after controller instead of making games and body wash. But at least I get to bounce back off that previously depressing news to some good stuff that I actually am happy for and do want to talk about. The Grandia HD collection, originally announced in August of 2018 and pretty much gone radio silent since then, although it was planned, supposedly at least anyway, for a release in winter last year, didn't happen. They've updated their little Twitter, they've given out a bit of announcement, they've sent out a PR statement that now the Grandia HD collection is coming soon. News at E3. So that's promising anyway. We'll probably see it at what I expect to be the Nintendo one, despite it not being Nintendo exclusive. But what's going to happen is that they're going to put they're remastering Grandia 1. There's a handful of screenshots out there from when it was first announced. It looks kind of good. I can't wait. It was just recent. Well, I say recently. Maybe last year I was playing through Grandia 1, but I kind of put off on it. It's still a great game, but I'll go back and do it. They're remastering Grandia 1 to bring it up to along the lines of the PC version of Grandia 2. And both games are going to feature enhanced details to UI, sprites, and texture art. So basically everything is going to be redone, and it's going to be hopefully cool looking while keeping the same feel and aesthetic of the game. It's especially important in Grandia 1 because Grandia 2 was a PS2 game, so it transferred relatively well with remastering and all, but a lot of the stuff in Grandia 1 might have to be worked and kept a little bit more work into it to keep it feeling and looking the same. But overall, the screenshots that we've seen so far, they're looking pretty promising. It's looking pretty good. The original cinematic videos will also be receiving visual enhancements in both games. It'll have English and Japanese audio and in-game text support for original English and Japanese, plus new French and German translations as well. So that's kind of handy for some of you out there if you live in France, Germany, Canada, or any country that speaks either of those languages. I can't wait for this. What's going to happen is they're going to release this as a collection on Steam. Apparently, they're going to be it's coming to Switch and PC. If what we understand is right, on PC they're going to be selling them as a bundle, but also selling the games individually. There's currently an anniversary HD remaster of Grandia 2 on Steam as it is, and that, from what I read and what's understood, that's going to be rebranded as the anniversary HD 2 collection, the new one, basically. So everything from that, or any slight changes they've made from developing, will be ported into that one and patched in. And maybe it'll repatch the entire game, or maybe just adds in the stuff that was changed. We'll have to wait and see. But it seems like that's what's going to happen. So obviously they're just using the existing PC one as kind of the base for there. I'm gonna buy it all. I'll be all over it on PC. I will gladly pick up Grandia 1 on there. I already have Grandia 2 on there. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have every version of Grandia 1 and 2 that exists right now. But yeah, it's going to be good. I can't wait. Hopefully when the news comes out at E3, I hope it's very, very soon and there's not a massive wait, because I can't wait. Highly recommend these games. Everyone plays them. Grandia 1 and 2 are fantastic. Now it's time to talk about everyone's favorite convoluted mess, Metro Exodus. Now, you might remember Metro Exodus because, well, this stuff just gets more and more and more messy by the day. Now, originally launched on February 14th, 2019 on Xbox One, PS4 and PC, of course we're only interested in the PC version of this game for what we're talking about here. Throughout its entire lifespan, all the way up to about 3 weeks before launch, all the trailers, all the previews, all the marketing, hell, even the finished game product launched with Steam heavily favored all over it. In fact, you could even pre-order the game up until 3 weeks before launch on Steam. Now, famously, the game was bought out. There was a paid exclusivity deal that close to launch between Epic Games and THQ. Not specifically THQ, it was Deep Silver, because they were the individual ones that controlled all that, to the point where THQ had to come out and say we had nothing to do with it. But anyway, back to the point, where the game exclusively moved over to the Epic Games Store for what they called 1 year before it would return to Steam and other digital storefronts. Obviously, other digital storefronts could count for basically anything on PC, but that's where it gets a little bit of a mess. Now, you might remember that pre-launch, during launch, and post-launch, Epic Games, as well as Foray and Deep Silver, they kind of damage controlled pretty hard for all of this. How it was better for gamers, how it was better for the company, how it was better for the game, how it was better for Epic, how it was better for everyone. And on top of all of that, they even released bullshit, fake, vague numbers. I say fake, but they're not fake news, but they're vague bullshit numbers that were put out in a completely misleading way to kind of big up themselves. But we're woke. We're not marks. We know better than that. We're smart marks. We got this. But anyway, remember what I said a minute ago. The keywords I said and the keywords used by Epic Games and Foray and all were 1 year timed exclusivity before the game would come to Steam and other digital storefronts on February 15th, 2020. Remember that. Fast forward 4 months to, well, it's the 8th of June. So we are here 4 months later. It's still not currently February 15th, 2020. Now, a listing on the Windows 10 store says that this game, Metro Exodus, will release on the Windows 10 store tomorrow night, June 9th. Now, there's a few reasons why this is an interesting date and why this is very credible, if you will. Number one, tomorrow, June 9th, when this game is scheduled to release, or tipped or leaked to release or whatever, is the same night as Microsoft's press conference for E3. So they could say, available now, available after this show, when all that stuff happens. Number two, okay, this is the same day that Microsoft is bringing the full version of Xbox Game Pass to PC, to Windows 10. Previously, as it exists now, if you have the Xbox Game Pass, you get 100 games on Xbox. About maybe 12 or 15 of them are cross-compatible, so you get the PC version as well. But this one is, as you know, they're finally bringing the full thing to Windows 10, and they're going to detail more of it at E3 during their press conference, like say price and availability, and it's available right now for such and such amount. And we already know that some of their biggest collaborators include THQ, Deep Silver, Bethesda. There's a couple of other companies, I was going to say countries, there's a couple of other companies too, but obviously the big one to take away from this is someone like Deep Silver, the publisher of Metro Exodus. Now, this one, why is this happening? Are Microsoft just throwing a massive amount of money at them? Are Epic Games unhappy? Personally, I think that this game likely has very disappointing sales, which opens the idea of either the developer or the publisher or Epic or whoever's involved to allow them to open up and maybe get out of the contract or just possibly throw some money around and maybe ease the terms. Because this is clearly, if this is true and this actually releases tomorrow, this is pretty much just evidence of that. Now, the most important, well, not even most important, but a very curious extra little side thing that I will personally be, well, interested in seeing is now that we know that Microsoft is opening the Windows 10 store to Windows 32 executable based games and not just limiting it to UWP based games, what's going to happen with the likes of Metro Exodus, when you think about it? With Microsoft opening the Windows 10 store to the Win32 games, it does allow so many other games and so many other publishers and all to just easily port their games on, drop them onto the Windows 10 store instead of Steam or whatever exclusive launcher. They don't have to worry about converting anything to UWP. They don't have to worry about any of that. Because if it's Win32, they can just drop it all in. Essentially, they can just drop it all in. Makes sense, doesn't it? So it's going to be interesting to see if Metro Exodus, if it does launch on the Windows 10 store tomorrow night on June 9th, is it going to be a UWP game or a Win32 executable game? My money is on a Win32 game, but we'll see. We'll see. So these next 2 points I want to talk about, they kind of roll together and lead to an overall bigger point and a bigger analysis at the end of it. So I'm going to go into detail on these two, but I'm not going to give my opinion or my thoughts on it just yet. We're going to stick with facts, and then after the first two, we'll have the real one, okay? So, UK retailer Game is in trouble. Again. Now, if you don't know who Game are, maybe you're not from the UK or you're from somewhere in Europe or somewhere in the US or Japan or whatever. But Game is essentially the UK's equivalent of GameStop. There's no proper GameStop in the UK. We have, or well, I shouldn't say we, but they have Game over there. We used to have Game and GameStop here until about 10 years ago or so. Game pulled all their stores out the first time they were going under. I think this is the third or fourth time they're going under, but yeah, it's just it's not a good situation for them. Now, a company called Sports Direct, which is a large, it's a major online retailer. It's more of a, their main focus is online retail. They sell sports clothing, sports accessories, blah, blah, blah. But they have a bunch of other ventures too. Sports Direct is just a parent company. So they're already a major shareholder of Game in the UK. And because of how the laws and all work, they have made a bid for, as a takeover offer to control the majority of the shares and all too. Now, the bid that they've made for this is £51.9 million. You would think, now, well, let me rephrase that. I was going to say you would think it would be a lot more, but given the fact they're in such a bad financial situation, it does make sense that it's this low. Now, the reason for that is this works out, their offer of £51.9 million, it works out at 30 pence per share, which is peanuts. You can think of any company, that is peanuts. That's madness, 30 pence per share. You have all these other companies trading at $15 per share, $35 per share. You've got companies that are like 120, 150, 220 euro, dollars, whatever per share. And this is offering 30 pence per share. Really shows just how bad of a situation they're in. Or at least, because I know that's the offer. It's not saying that I don't know what their exact value of their share is, but I would assume it's pretty low anyway. But if successful, Sports Direct has warned that in order to restructure and refinance and reshuffle the company and all, there are going to be some job losses to save money. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on the bigger ramifications of this one just yet. I do want to talk about my next point before we move on to the ramification side, because they're both essentially the same thing. So the next related point that I want to talk about, which is linked to the previous one that we just looked at, is GameStop in the US. Now, it's unconfirmed if this is to do with just the US chains of GameStop or GameStop the parent company, in which case it would apply to absolutely everyone. I'm going to assume it's the parent company and not just the brand chain, if you will. But their stock is down 40%. Now, this has dropped a few times in the last few days. First, it went down by something like 8, and then 13, then 25 or something like that. And now it's down by 40%. $5 each per share, which is the lowest it's ever been since 2013. So it's the longest. Now, think about it. There's an interesting point to make in that 2013 number. But when you think of it, that means this is the worst performing time they've had in 6 years. Now, this makes sense for a few reasons, which we'll get to now in a second. But the reason for these big drops is that, surprising no one, they have missed their sales target for Q1. Now, there's a problem with that, because their sales target for Q1 was already predicting a loss. And now they've missed that, so it's even lower. Because this comes after they failed to find someone to buy out the entire company, either late last year or at some point this year. The GameStop, the parent company, was looking for someone to buy them out. Everyone looked at their books, they looked at their operating costs, they looked at what's the expenditures, their income, they looked at all the expected possible growth or possible loss, and no company would touch it. So that's very, very damning. But let me give you a perfect example of GameStop and where their stuff comes from. Because as you guys may or may not know, I used to run a GameStop a long time ago. A few years ago. Long time ago. What am I saying? But anyway, in GameStop, at least here, what happens is there are 3 main sources. I prefer to call them 2.5 main sources of profit margin for GameStop. Their main income is obviously pre-owned games. We all know the memes where people will, I'll give you $5 for this game, and they'll turn around and sell it for 50. That's a huge margin. That's a huge markup. That's huge profit. Okay, that makes sense. Another one is loot. It's the little, I don't know, collectibles and non-games stuff, if you will. Even though they might be related to gaming, might be a Zelda t-shirt, might be a Resident Evil 2 pop figure, whatever it is. Stuff like that is typically called loot, and that has a fairly significant profit margin on it as well. Of course, you're talking for example, a pop figure. You were talking at about 300% margin on average sale prices and all too. So you can see the point there. And what I call the 2.5 per the 50%, since I said it was 2.5 versions of main sources of income, was hardware. Now, hardware typically doesn't always make them a huge amount at first. And not only on top of that, but during certain promotions and all as well, they're technically losing out on money. It's very, very strange, because let me give you an example. At one point, Sony did a really good bundle in the early life of the PS4. I say, let's go with mid-life of the PS4. Halfway through, they would offer PS4, and that bundle would have maybe 4 games inside it. There were physical games too, not just digital, but they would have them inside it. Now, you could give existing stock, and Sony would credit the difference, if you will. So technically, while you're losing money on the individual product, Sony are making up for it. They're only making up what you paid for it, though. So let's say you paid €200 for that PlayStation. GameStop paid €200. You sell it for 300. No, wait, it's the other way around. Let's say you bought it for 300. You sell it for 200. Sony would give you back the 100, only to your profits, or your original purchase, if you will. Because the idea is that you will sell people on add-ons and extras and extra sales, accessories, GameStop programs, shit like that. So That's how this stuff works. It used to be like that with Apple in my previous job before GameStop. We didn't sell iPods for the longest time. We didn't sell iPhones, anything like that. We didn't sell anything Apple. And the company owner would always meet with the Apple reps and all, and they said, "Oh, you can sell us." And he'd just be like, "Why? We make no profit on you." He goes, "Oh yeah, but you get them on the accessories." And he just laughed because we do that anyway. So it's the same principle. It's the same principle. It's kind of a name to get someone into your store. There's a term for it. There's a loss leader. Well, that's not specifically a loss leader because they would refund you for it. They would make up the balance. I'm getting completely off topic anyway. But back to what I'm talking about with the with the GameStop one. So using those numbers I gave you, where their hardware makes money every so often, and their used game sales and their loot and stuff like that. In the US, the main profit margin in where am I? The used game sales are down 20% overall, and hardware is down 35%. Now, as a quick aside, again, this is typical for the end of a console generation. Because remember when those numbers, the stock had been the lowest since 2013? It was before these current consoles launched. So this makes sense. Everyone's getting stale. Everything's getting bored. Everything is just kind of stagnating. Used games are going down for multiple reasons. Console sales are going down because everyone has them at this point. See? You see my point here? Now, back to where we go. So, oh yeah, and as a reminder as well that I mentioned earlier too, that they announced during their their April financial report, the one for the entire year, they said that they intend to make zero profit all the way up to Christmas, and that's when they hope to turn a profit. Obviously that didn't work in previous years, and it's not working now, as they're even lower than their existing stuff. And yeah, that's pretty bad. So that's the GameStop side of it. Now, the two of this point we just talked about with GameStop and the previous one with Game in the UK, they're going to kind of be case studies for my next point that we're going to talk about. So bear with me on this one because I got a lot of notes anyway. So when we look at the stuff going on with Game Retailer in the UK and GameStop in the US, what does that mean for the future of brick and mortar game stores? Is this the end of them? Is it coming hard and fast? Amazon, as well as a few other select online retailers, depending on the region. I think there's also places like Best Buy and Walmart and stuff like that, especially if you're in Canada and Bethesda games and whatnot. They must be slaughtering them. Amazon in particular must be absolutely murdering them. So, I mean, when you think about it, all of that, the physical game sales and all too, and not to mention that digital revenue increases on every platform in every region year upon year upon year. People are buying less physical games. People are buying more digital games. An example of how much money digital sales alone bring in. The PSN, the PlayStation Network, in 2018 made more money just in digital sales and digital content than Nintendo's entire company. Think about that. The Nintendo Switch meant Nintendo had a big, good year in 2018. Even if the games were dry as fuck. But they sold a lot of Switches, and they sold a lot of third-party shoddy shovelwares and lay ports. But that still adds up to money. And even though all of that hardware sales, physical game sales, subscription costs, digital sales, everything was eclipsed by PlayStation's digital-only sales. Now, I'm not using that to bash the Switch. I'm just talking, look at that number, that sheer number. And you see why digital is getting bigger and bigger and bigger every single year. So let me see. And not only that, but physical sales typically decrease in line with that too. Even with more people buying Switch, more people buying PlayStation, no one's still buying Xbox. The physical games are still selling less and less in proportion to the amount of consoles going out there, as well as the just amount of revenue and physical game sales that they're selling. Now, Here's the thing about this one, okay, is if GameStop can manage to survive until the next gen, which is likely going to be October, November of 2020, the launch of the Xbox 2.4 and the PlayStation 5 will help them. Because just like what happened in 2013 when the Xbox One and PS4 launched, that will provide a big surge. I know a lot of people, they might not want to buy games in GameStop. They might buy one when they pick up a console or whatever. But a lot of people don't like to buy consoles online. I know I don't. I like to just prefer to buy the console, at least a new console like an Xbox One or a PS4 or whatever's current at the time, just in case I have any problems. Case in point, when I bought my Project Scorpio Xbox One X and it broke a month and a half later, I could just go straight back down to my GameStop and that was it. Nice and easy. Imagine the hassle of packing it up, sending it off, hoping everything goes well, and it's a pain. It's so much easier in that regard for hardware and warranty and stuff. So that's a promising one anyway for for the launch of the stuff next year. But the big question and the big point I make is that if that does happen and the Xbox 2.4 and PS5 keep them going for a while, how long is that going to last? In my opinion, that will only last a few months, because at first all the people will want to buy the console day one. And then the people who wanted the console day one but they couldn't get it, they will manage to get their consoles over the next, maybe we call it 3-4 months, as they get restocked in GameStop or in game or wherever it is. But once that happens, once the consoles, their initial demand is satiated, then everyone is going to start buying from Amazon. Their games are going to come from Amazon. Their everything is going to come from Amazon. You see my point? And Amazon is so big, they could even ship consoles, have them there day one, and still offer some sort of good additional service for customer service in case it's warranty information or anything like that. Now, this kills me because I really don't want to read this line, and I don't like that I came up with this train of thought when I was analyzing this a while back. But maybe physical game stores will eventually become like Blockbuster. Just think about it. Maybe physical game store. Maybe eventually digital is really and truly going to be the future. It's not a future I wish for. Even if my Xbox One is pretty much all digital. The only stuff I play on it is digital anyway. I do have 1 or 2 physical games that I never play. But you see my point. I have other stuff that's physical as well. My PS4 is pretty much entirely physical. I have one full game on the PS4 that is available physically that I do not own physically, that I only own digitally. And everything else I have is physical. On the Switch, it's the same deal. Well, I can't say my PC, but you see my point. You see my point. Now, of course, I don't want physical games. So I'm not talking specifically GameStop, game, whatever. I'm just using, they're just part of the example. I don't want them to disappear, but I know, of course, I'm not talking about you have that one store in the middle of nowhere that completely thrives because of awful infrastructure around it, and it's in the middle of a forest just because there's a village like Twin Peaks in the middle of a forest. I'm not talking about that, like that one Blockbuster, because it would be kind of a sad day if 99% of physical game stores, and like I said, not just GameStop and Game, if they vanished. Maybe it's just rose-tinted glasses, maybe it's just nostalgia, but all those memories we had, the somewhat fun, at least anyway, we experienced with friends going in, maybe randomly stumbling on a game that you really wanted forever but is now on a sale or something like that. Yeah, and not to mention that it would suck for those people out there who don't have good internet. Now, I'm lucky, I have good internet. I have 350 meg fiber down, 24 meg fiber up, although hell, that's enough to do extremely high quality streaming, but that's not the point. Obviously, I wish I had like 1,000 down, 1,000 up, synchronous. It'd be brilliant, but that's beside the point. So, I mean, just a lot of the people out there who might not have the option if this goes all digital future. They might not have an option. They might have to wait 3 days to download any new game they buy, any AAA big game. See why this could be a bit of a problem. I realize that in business it's a numbers game, and as cold as it sounds, they are clearly such a small crowd, and even so much a further dwindling crowd, that it's not viable to keep these physical game stores open, and it's not viable to keep providing physical media in this usual way. And clearly these numbers say that. Clearly these companies will see that. The number of physical copies sold, digital copies sold. As digital goes up, physical comes down, and companies I mean, we already have that story about the Nintendo Switch. I'm not sure if it's true or not. It's still just a rumor at the moment. But Namco Bandai, a company which has several major releases or somewhat high-profile releases on the Switch, they launched the games originally and they launched them physically on the game cards, or at least with the majority of the game on the game cards. The problem is a lot of this stuff has been rumored to be re-released, and a lot of these re-releases and extra runs and publishing and all of games has the game card removed. A game that was physically available on Switch beforehand is just a download code provided now. It's not one or the other, it's just one. It's not the option. We know some games do sell a digital code in a box, or they sell a physical one, or maybe not, maybe it's only one or the other, but this is just replacing physical editions with download codes. So you can see that a lot of people and companies and places are going this route, and that's kind of sad. For someone who's in the middle of filming a redacted video, it's pretty sad. Feels bad, man. Now, next up, I want to talk about fanboys and how much they disgust me. Little bit of a disclaimer, despite the topic I'm about to talk about here and the platform and everything about it, I'm not specifically bashing that in this one. I'm bashing the absolute toxicity of complete, butthurt, idiotic fanboys, okay? Bear with me on this one. So, completely disregard the game, the company, and, well, the game, the company of the game, the parent company of the game, and the console manufacturer and all. Again, I'm not talking about it in this one, just because someone's going to try to bash me over that like they always do, but they're wrong anyway, but you see my point. Okay, so Atlus has come out and renewed their statement that they have no plans to release Persona 5 The Royal on any other platform. Now, of course, this is the usual PR speak that some people are claiming mostly. It's like, oh, no plans at this time, stuff changes and all as well. One of you guys out there is going to quote the legendary Capcom 5 at me. You know who you are. But yeah, okay, back to the real world and how this stuff happens, okay. This has brought out the worst and saltiest of the fanboys. Now again, I'm not using this to bash Nintendo or anything, just bear with it. But the saltiest and biggest butthurt Nintendrones are out there, okay? Because despite, these are people who are calling for this company to be shut down, saying they're incompetent, all this bullshit. Sega as well, they're cursing Sega because they own Atlus. And it's, oh, they must hate money. It's like, clearly they don't. They bothered putting it out on the biggest platform out there, which is why it's on the PS4. But despite all of this, and despite the fact that this company has previously provided multiple different exclusive games that have never been ported everywhere else, on the DS, the 3DS, even the fucking Wii U, and as well as upcoming games on the Switch, this triggers the shit out of them that Persona 5 specifically is not coming to the Nintendo Switch. So I mean, you've all the games on the DS, the Rune Factory games. You have the Etri and Odyssey games, 3DS as well. Just to name but a few. Some of the Shin Megami Tensei games, they're spin-off games as well. SMT4 on the 3DS. You had the, what was it, Overclockers or Soul Hackers or whatever it was. 3DS and DS games. This company, Atlus, has put out so many exclusive games on all 4 of these platforms, including the fucking Wii U. I just filmed a bit of a video today talking about an Atlus game on Wii U. Today. How fitting is that? They're just the worst people ever. They're just the worst people ever. They're so entitled. It's the reason why I go so hard against the Switch a lot of the time. It's to put these people in their place, to let them know, because they clearly have some sort of weird delusion about what they are and where they are in the console space. These people are the worst. And someone's going to say vocal minority. Technically, yes, it is. But when you look at every other platform, and you go to places where this stuff is rampant and it's rife, you could go to, I don't know, all types of forums, multi-platform forums. You can go to PlayStation exclusive forums, Xbox exclusive forums, Switch exclusive forums. The number you see on Switch, the sheer volume, completely outpaces everything else by such massive amounts that it annoys me that these people exist. And that's why I take it upon myself to shit all over them and put them in their place. Now, let's be realistic, right? I'm not talking about my own personal preference here, but let me be realistic for 1 second. At the end of the day, if Persona 5 or Persona 5 The Royal came to Switch, would that affect me at all? Absolutely not. Would that have any bearing on me? Absolutely not. I wouldn't buy it on Switch. Well, actually, I probably would. I love Persona 5 that much. I wouldn't play it on Switch. But it's kind of one of those things. But it doesn't detract from my enjoyment of the game. In fact, it would arguably be better. Not really, but because more people get involved and exposed to a series, potentially leading to the next game being bigger and bigger and bigger and having a bigger budget, and you see my point. But so realistically, objectively, at the end of the day, it makes no bearing on me whatsoever. But I'm smarter than that. That's why I'm going to show them what's up. That's why I do show them what's up. That's why I have all these videos to show them what's up. Because these people need to learn their place in that regard. They don't know where they are. They think they're ahead of number one. Boy, they are dead. Dead last. Absolutely. And you know what? Just to end out this segment, I have 3 little words just to trigger you people even more. Not Persona 5 coming to the Switch, because we know it's not. Not Persona 5 The Royal coming to the Switch, because we know it's not. But no, we have 3 words. We have Persona 5 Scramble. But speaking about JRPGs on a positive note here, it's a good time for the last couple of years at this point to be a JRPG fan, no matter what platform you're on. We've had so many different high-quality JRPGs across so many platforms that it's a great time. PC, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Nintendo Switch, even the Wii U. Xbox One kind of struggles a little bit, but regardless anyway, you see the point. It's a great time to be a JRPG owner. Now, it gets even better because some alleged leaks are coming out of pre-E3 for 2019. Now, these ones are also pretty good. First off, we have Tales of Arise, the next entry, or the alleged next entry, in the new Namco, not new, but the new entry in the Namco Bandai series, Tales of Xillia, Tales of Symphonia, Tales of Vesperia, yada yada yada. So, coming allegedly to PS4, Xbox One and PC, which makes sense if you've seen the new screenshots and all as well. It's visually a massive improvement over the previous games, like Berseria and Zestiria. It's a big improvement over those, especially because they had a bit more anime style. I do like that style as well, but it's nice to see it change up a little bit and get a little bit more modern. It's almost Monster Hunter World-esque a little bit. There's still a couple of rough edges, but we'll see. This is all supposed to be, at least anyway, for this one. It's supposed to be released or announced during the Xbox One conference tomorrow night. Now, not only that, but we have something that many people, myself included, have called for years. Ni no Kuni 1, Wrath of the White Witch, is allegedly going to get a port and several remasters. Now, what do I mean by that? How is it getting a port and several remasters? Well, the remastered version is supposedly going to have better performance, it's supposedly going to have better resolution, and it's coming to PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So, there could be extra additional stuff in there too. We could have new art, we could have new something, but realistically, running these games at higher resolution with the art style that Ni no Kuni 1 uses is going to be great anyway. It lends itself really well to high resolution. The game looks gorgeous and Studio Ghibli are just fantastic. So, between them and Level 5, everything about it is just fantastic. So, on top of all of that, you might wonder where the port version comes in. Well, the Nintendo Switch is getting a direct port of the PlayStation 3 version because it won't have any of the new advanced features. It won't have improved performance, it won't have the improved resolution, and anything else that we may or may not see in the remastered version from quality-wise won't be present on the Nintendo Switch. They're just getting the straight PS3 port. Now, I'm not shitting on the Switch in that regard. I know someone's going to think that because of the previous segment, but the important thing is that all of this is good news. All of it is good news, especially if you're a JRPG fan. For those of you out there, I highly encourage you to not buy the Switch version because everything looks and runs better on everything else. If you have multiple platforms, just buy that. You're doing yourself a disservice. But anyway, The big thing I want to take away from this is that Ni no Kuni 1, Wrath of the White Witch, be it remastered or regular edition, is a great game. I played it on the PS3 and I absolutely loved it. It was one of the best RPGs of the generation, and that's not something I say lightly. So it's fantastic, and it is better than the second game, Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom. Still a good game, mind you, but just not as good as the first one. So I highly recommend everyone picks this up. Depending on price, I might pick it up day one on PC, or I might just wait for a sale, depending on how it goes. I put a significant amount of time into it. Don't want to buy a big JRPG that I might not play for several years if I'm going to pay full price for it. So hence the sale. But we'll see how it goes. I recommend everyone tries it out anyway on a, in this order: PC, PS4, Xbox One, and is it come with Xbox One? It says Xbox. No, wait. Yeah, it says Xbox on here, so that's what the leak said. And then a Switch at the bottom if you don't have anything else, in which case consider buying something else. But yeah, we'll see how it goes when all this stuff is potentially announced over tomorrow night or the next few days. Now that all that important stuff is out of the way, we can get to the little roundup segment. Q, what are you doing? What are you playing? What's going on? Well, what I'm playing is we're currently still pushing through with Borderlands 2. We're working on unlocking the OP levels. We've got, I think it's 4 of them done at this point, and hopefully tonight we'll be working on unlocking at least 2, if not all, 4 more. Which kind of comes in handy because if the rumored DLC is going to be coming out sometime soon for Borderlands 2 to link the story from Borderlands 2 to Borderlands 3, well, it would be nice if we are truly max level because, well, 72 and 8 OP levels, it makes sense. And then there's obviously the possibility of the new DLC having an increased level cap of 80. But it's going to be good. It'll give us time to max out on that as well as farm OP level 8 weapons because then we can really, really do some damage. Other than that, I'm still playing Final Fantasy IV. I have been very, very slow in that regard for Final Fantasy IV, but that's kind of my big focus now at the moment anyway too. I'm currently expansion ready for Shadowbringers at the end of the month in Final Fantasy XIV. My main job, Laladin, Lalafell Master Race, is completely geared out in I-400 except one ring, which is 399, because obviously I can't put the 2 tome rings on if they're upgraded. Oh, but Q, why don't you just raid some more? No, not with the player base on that game. They're so fucking awful. But yeah, I'm pretty much done on Final Fantasy XIV until Shadowbringers Early Access at the end of the month. Other than that, I still, as I mentioned once or twice during this episode, I still have another unnamed video in the works. I'm working on it. I'm probably about 2/3 of the way through, if not half. It's in around that. It's kind of a weird one. It's going to be an exceptionally long video. So thank none of you for watching all of it because, well, no one's going to watch all of it. But I'm happy to have made it. I'm happy to have made it. It's going to be good stuff. There will be more fanfare when it's actually done. I'll talk about it a bit more in that regard, but anyway, it's beside the point. Other than that, I'm trying to, because I'm not really watching anything at the moment, I'm trying to come up and decide on an anime to watch. I want to get back in and watch an anime. I don't want to watch anything huge at the moment. I'm still, after Naruto Shippuden, I'm still not ready to commit to anything with more than 100 episodes, or hell, even anything with more than maybe 60 or 70 episodes at this point. So I'm still trying to come up with something to watch. I don't know if I want to rewatch something I haven't seen in a long time or if I want to catch up on some stuff I've missed. For the longest time, I've skipped a couple of things that I've been meaning to watch, and they're kind of number one and 2 in the contender spots at the moment. I'm thinking of watching Attack on Titan Season 2 as well as One Punch Man Season 1. I love the Attack on Titan Season 1 and Attack on Titan Season 2 I've had sitting there for ages, but I never got around to. One Punch Man has been massively recommended to me. I've just never got around to it. I might throw in Tokyo Ghoul as well. That's something also into running. But we'll see how it goes. I'm way overburdened and I've far too much in my backlog to worry about making a choice that easy. Anyway, that's it for our little episode 11 of this Quack experimental podcast. I want to thank everyone for joining me on this one. If you have anything interesting that you feel I might want to take a look at or talk about, feel free to leave it in the comments section below or even slide into them Twitter DMs. They are open for that specific reason. Now, other than that, what can I say? Well, feel free to hit the like button, feel free to hit the dislike button, whichever suits you best. Why not head on over, hit the subscribe button, and even ring the little notification bell. Granted, getting a notification from YouTube in current year about a video upload or a live stream or whatever is a whole other story. But hey, at least you can say you tried, am I right? And not only that, I want to tell everyone to, why not check me out and check me out with the stream of the Microsoft Xbox 360, Xbox E3 2019 press conference tomorrow night, starting about 8:30 BST, 8:30 PM BST. Before it gets started, hopefully we'll see something good. Maybe some Halo Infinite, maybe some Master Chief PC stuff, Gears of War 5, and so many other stuff that we don't know about yet. But until then, remember, winners don't play switchboards.